it's rather quiet in here today.
It is.
Yeah. Are we missing anyone?
Not that I can think of.
I think we sent him to the. Oh, that's right. We sent Logan and Lana to the jury.
That's true. Or they're in purgatory, which we've seen in Australian Survivor. Oh, they're in the playpen, which you know nothing about.
Nothing about,
Hmm.
but they're in the playpen, sure. Or
Yes.
they're on Redemption Rock.
Oh, you know a thing.
I know one thing. Or maybe they didn't buy their way through the auction. I don't know. Anyway, hi everyone. My name is Jack. I am the resident game designer of the panel, and I'm here to lay on the ground really convincingly like I'm just done with this game. And I'm drinking water. That's it.
Well, I'm David Healy, the Survivor superfan, and buckle up because I have some controversial opinions for this episode. But I am drinking water as well.
But do have one question. Now, if you're not feeling well, you know what you can do? Drink some good tea. Do you know what you can drink that tea out of? You're goddamn right. It's a cup
Oh,
mug.
panel full of
Panel full
cup
of cup
mugs.
mugs. Panel full of cup mugs. Panel full of cup mugs. I'm going to make sure this isn't off frame. And you can get one of these beautiful mugs for yourself at lanagcreations.com. Once again, that is
.etsy.com.
lanagcreations.com.
.etsy.com.
.etsy.com.
Gotta get that Etsy in there.
You're right. Lana does get paid by Etsy to do this, along with multiple other amazing merch items. We do, in fact, ship internationally and domestically here within the US, so there are no excuses. And today I'm looking at you, Australia, just because honestly, I think it's quicker to ship it to you than it is to me on the eastern coast of the US. So you literally have no excuses. Pick one up today. Now, before we get started, I do just have a couple things to say. First, if you like reality TV competition formats across the literal world, consider subscribing. We have Survivor US and Australia. We have BB Can that just started. We have The Traders, which is just ending. And we have Deal or No Deal Island, which
Dondi.
for some reason is amazing. If you have not seen it yet, please go ahead and watch it and then come back and watch us. If you like drag from all over the world, check out the Cup Pod, where we're covering literally new shows every single week because Rue has decided to spawn literally as many shows as possible all over the world, and we just keep getting more. And finally, if you like the Cup, if you like the Eurovision Song Contest, check out the Cup ESC. We are talking about every single new song release as it comes out, and the season is ramping up to its big conclusion in Malmo. So check it out. We're even slightly supported by artists who are actually singing. So if they're supporting us, you probably should as well. And finally, before we get started, hit that like button to support us and tap the subscribe button. It just had a little rainbow border around it. Isn't that fun? Isn't that a little queer? And ring the bell like you're finishing a challenge elimination because you do not want to miss a thing over here. And do you want some high grade premium quality tea? There is exactly one way to get it. It is the Shade Room over on our Cup Pod. That is our membership where you can help us make bigger and better reality shows because they keep coming out and we need help to keep going. You don't want us to miss a single thing, and neither do we. And in return for you giving us a little bit of money, you get a personalized badge. You get special little recaps and special things that other people don't get. And I mean, you get to go to the Shade Room. You don't want to not go to the Shade Room, right? Like, come on, just join us. It is absolutely worth your time. Join us today. And with all of that out of the way, let's get to this set of 3 episodes because it's an interesting bunch.
It is for sure. So is this officially the most episodes you've seen in a Survivor season? You're at 18 now. I don't
I
think the US has done 18 or 18 episodes for a season.
I
Maybe if you
want to say
count,
yes.
I think Australia season 2 might have had like bonus episodes because they had like a recap, they had like an after special like months later. That might be the only one that comes close to 18.
Yeah. I mean, and even then it's like this is and the lengthwise of this is double what I'm typically used to for a Survivor season. It is kind of wild because we even with this, we still pretty much get exactly what everyone's thinking and we get good storylines. There there's no reason that Survivor should ever be shorter than this, and we also have nice reprieves every single middle of the week where, it's like a typical hour-long episode because it's not nearly as important.
Mhm. Yeah, it is weird how that works out. It's always like the Monday episode, that's a short one. That's the one we can skip the reward challenge. But yeah, I do agree that it's kind of nice to just have one that is less commitment.
Yeah, but I mean, we kind of can just jump into episode 16 here.
I'm down.
The last thing that happened was Eden shockingly getting blindsided via Jaden flipping his vote at the last moment. And we go back to camp, I believe the next morning, where Ferris and Eileen are kind of on top. They kind of realize that the rebels have things together for once. Like, God.
Yeah, it's like, is this gonna stick though? Because nothing seems to stick. In fact, I've heard a statistic that like uh everybody who's made it to this point, none of them have voted together. Like every tribal council that they've been to. There's not any two-person combination that's voted the same every time, which is wild.
Yeah, this season is so fluid and it provides some amazing gameplay and some very questionable gameplay, to put it lightly, and we see that a little later on. But we kind of start with Ferris and Eileen talking about whether they kind of want to go after Katie and Caroline, continue the kind of knockdown of what we know as the middle-aged mafia. They knock down Eden. Maybe next is Kitty or Carolyn, but also considering just bringing them farther into the game,
Mhm.
which, I mean, with this season, you can literally rely on anyone at any point, so it's not a horrible idea.
True, but I think Ferris wasn't like really wanting to work with Caroline after this. He seemed a little bit upset that she flipped on him even after he put his trust in her. But luckily, he was able to call out her bluff, which is why there was that last minute change that ended up getting Eden out, which I'm still sad about. I haven't been here for the past couple of weeks, but I really liked Eden, and it would have been really nice to see him on the jury because he's such a big fan.
Yeah. And before I completely forget, there is the button, and there it is.
There they are.
Yeah, with Eden unfortunately crossed out.
Oh.
But there's also an extra little hint of something because, of course, the rebels can't actually stay together. Kirby considers taking out Eileen to weaken Ferris.
No, don't do that.
Why? Y'all had
Mm.
it so good. I mean, fine if you feel like that's how you have to become closer to Ferris, I guess. But also, like, why now? We don't need that now.
No. And the previous episode had shown kind of like a teaser with Kirby wanting to like go after I thought she wanted to go after Ferris. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, if they're showing it in the preview for next week, she's not going to go after Ferris." So then when it showed, "Oh, she wants to go after Eileen." Oh, that could happen. and I got nervous.
Yeah. But after that, we got a special little reward.
Ooh.
And it's the classic Survivor auction. You know, the thing that can never be attempted on US again, apparently? They're just doing it here because why not?
They gave us one season with it back after I think how many 14 seasons off, and
Something
then
around
Jeff
there.
Jeff is like, yeah, sorry, that's not going to happen again for a while. I was like, what? It's too complicated. It's too hard. We can't get it. Just make it an auction. That's all you have to do is make it an auction.
Yeah. And simply put, not say there are any advantages.
Right.
Not say there are any advantages because the first thing up for auction is a popcorn clear tube. Like it's not even a bucket at that point. It's like a good foot foot radius wide tube, like a good 2 feet of popcorn. You're gonna kill someone with that. But Raymond really wants it.
But why? Like of all things, I was like, Raymond, you do realize there are going to be other things. This may look good in the moment, but popcorn. I'm a popcorn hater. Like when I go to the movies, I don't get popcorn. My thing is when I eat popcorn, it like notoriously like gets stuck in my gums, like not my teeth. It will somehow like get cut up in my gums, and sometimes last there for like weeks.
Oh,
And yeah, it gets pretty painful. Like I think the last time that happened, when was that? Was it December? It might have been. Oh, it was December a couple years ago. I had some like lodged up in my gum and it was swollen for like a week and a half. And I'm like, is it popcorn in there? And sure enough, eventually it came out. I'm like, you little thing. So I don't eat popcorn, but good for Raymond.
good for Raymond spending $400 on popcorn and then trying to get rid of his $100 during the rest of the auction. But we kind of just keep going, and some other people get some rewards
Some chicken
and
parma.
some chicken parm.
I can't remember what everything was. There was
I can't remember either. The only other really big one that comes to mind is Ferris
that box.
looking at the box and being like, I want what's under there. That's got to be a steak, which a steak that's been sitting under why would you want that? And why would you think that's the steak? And of course, Ferris bids all his money, 500, and gets it. And it is a steak at cleaning your teeth. It's literally just a toothbrush, some toothpaste. The only thing he can take back with him is some mints.
Yeah, which is more than everybody else got to bring back, right?
Yeah. Well, almost more than
Almost.
everyone else.
Mhm.
Because while Raymond is eating his bucket of popcorn that keeps filling and dropping at various levels, just like horribly edited. And continuity's fun. He reaches down and feels a little something and just shoves it right in his pocket. And we know that's an immediate advantage, which of course there's an advantage hidden here. Why wouldn't there be?
Mhm. Yeah, it made me think about it though, because I was like, oh wait, we haven't gotten the challenge we've been getting for like I think since season 3 or 4. There's always a challenge. You haven't seen this, but they have a challenge. It's a tribal challenge where the reward is I said challenge. It's the reward, not the challenge. The reward is some sort of food thing that the tribe gets to eat one at a time. So they take turns like going off into this place where there's like a bunch of popcorn or candy or things like that. And basically everybody knows, oh, there's an idol somewhere hidden here. And they just ransack the place. Like it becomes a complete mess by the time the last person is there. And I just realized we haven't gotten that. And I think this is the first time we haven't gotten it since season 2.
And I think this is that now that you say that, this was definitely a hint because popcorn. It's a bunch of popcorn that you can hide a small little scroll in.
Mhm.
Like it's not difficult. And that's pretty much it. The auction closes. Ferris is pissed off they didn't get his little steak. And we go back with Raymond running off and finding, in my opinion, the worst advantage I have literally ever seen. So the advantage is rather simple. And the Twitter account for Survivor Australia called it the popcorn advantage. So that's just what I'm going to refer to it as, because otherwise there is literally not a name for it. It is the following. If you manage to convince every other person in the game to vote for you, none of those votes count, and your vote is the only one that counts. What? How is that an advantage? Like, yeah, obviously you pull off this big power move and it's an advantage. If one person does not vote you, the advantage is nullified. And on probably the most fluid season of Survivor I've ever seen. Huh?
Mhm. Yeah, I put on Twitter when I saw this, I'm like, if I got this advantage, I would rip it up immediately and throw it in the ocean because my perception is, oh, this is worthless. Because what are the odds you're going to get every single person to vote for you? Um, because even if you're asking people to vote for you, you would think somebody would be like, well, what if this is a bigger plan and they're going to play an idol? Let me throw my vote on somebody else so that I don't have to worry about getting idled out.
Yeah. And I mean, your allies aren't going to naturally vote for you, so you have to tell them. And on a
Mhm.
season that is so fluid, that information is almost certainly going to leak to other people unless you can manage to convince your allies that the person that you're willing to take out is the perfect target, which just such a confusing advantage, especially for this season. If it was on most seasons of US Survivor, I could see this going through. I could also see it burning and crashing like most knowledge's power advantages are, but you know,
Mhm. Plus, I think it had to be used within the next 3 tribal
three.
councils, right?
Yes. So there is a very, very short lifespan on this. Granted, I think that was smart because as the game comes to a close, this power gets more and more and more useful.
Mhm.
With 5 people, this is not a difficult thing to pull off. With 9, 10, or 11 people, it is. And Raymond pretty much immediately realizes that and goes, this is not going to be, at least the first 2 rounds, it's not going to be smart to use. He does also go and tell Ferris about this. And Ferris is like, how would we even attempt this? We
You
see the
don't.
attempt
If
later
it's
on.
me, you don't.
You don't
It's not
at
worth
all.
it.
But then we get the actual vote, at least sparks of the vote for the episode.
Mhm.
Kirby goes over to Ferris with a plan to split on Mark and Caroline, which makes sense.
It's
Based on the
still
last vote, it's
yeah, it's
logical.
it does make sense. It's still weird seeing those 2 work together, and I kept getting confused because they kept saying the 4 Titans, and I'm like, "There's only 4 Titans left?" But they would say the 4 original Titans, but they were not including Jaden in that bunch. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, they're already down to 4 plus Jaden." Like, it's starting to go fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been surprised that we haven't had another non-elimination round in a while because we need to have at least one more, so it's coming.
Yeah. But of course, the plan that Kirby's feeding to Ferris isn't actually real because she's voting for Eileen.
Don't do it.
Good. Good. it. Uh,
Yeah, she approaches Kitty with the plan first, I think, and lets her know. But I think that the Titans are having a hard time trusting what Kirby is saying after every. And honestly, who can you trust at this point? Like, I don't think hardly any two people, especially after this set of episodes, I don't think any two people should fully trust each other. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe Valeria and Mark, but like
maybe.
even Kitty
Like
and
that's
Caroline, I
it.
wouldn't say. I wouldn't say
I
they
I
should
would
trust.
also say Eileen Ferris and Ferris Raymond. Those are probably the strongest bonds left.
Mm,
And maybe Alex Rihanna. That's a hard maybe.
true, but that's even like by the end of this set of episodes, I still wouldn't even say Ferris should
Yeah.
trust Raymond.
But with that, we go to immunity. And this is one that we've seen before in the US, but is semi close to what we've seen, but different enough to where it's not exactly the same thing. We have a essentially four-pronged thing where you have to stack two wooden blocks on each end. If you can do that while also making sure it doesn't tip over, you win immunity. Standard.
Mhm. Seems simple enough. And this quickly becomes kind of a nail biter. Like, a lot of people are getting close and then they're falling, and then other people are getting close. But then the big moment is with Eileen because she's got all of her blocks stacked and we're all cheering because we know Kirby's trying to do her dirty. And we see Eileen just slowly making her way back and she's right there. She's got 2 steps left she has to do. And we're like, "Okay, you got this. You got this." And then they start to fall. So she
One
starts going
falls.
yes.
Okay, okay, fine, fine, whatever. We can recover. We can
Yes.
recover.
Then they all fall.
Ugh.
No.
And pretty soon after, Kitty gets all laid up. Kitty is a couple steps away. And Kitty wins.
Well, good for you, Kitty.
Good for you, Kitty. You were not really in danger tonight. Okay. This is really just more of a denial of Eileen, which Kirby very much says to Kitty and Caroline directly after. It's like, good, she didn't win. She didn't win. That's the important part. Which, oh, god damn it.
I'm like,
God
surely,
damn it.
surely it's not this obvious, right? Surely
Can't be
something's
this
gonna
obvious.
change. But Australian Survivor, you never know. They could either like spell it out for you completely, or they can completely surprise you. Like we've seen a few times over the years.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this was not looking like it was going to be a surprise
Yeah.
for us.
For us, at least.
Yes. We
But
do we do see back at camp, Caroline and Ferris are talking, and Caroline knows of the plan to get out Eileen. But Ferris makes Caroline a bit nervous when he tells her that her name has been coming up. And this is his way of trying to get her to jump on Mark so that they have enough votes for sure and they don't have to worry about anything going awry. Um, and they can still do the split on Mark and Caroline. But this freaks out Caroline.
and at the same time, Kirby is finally like getting votes together against Eileen. Like it's 100% in her mind that she wants Eileen gone. And Caroline looks at this and says, "Are you playing me? Like, what the fuck is going on?" And you also get that Ferris isn't certain that Caroline and Kitty are with him anymore either, which they kind of aren't.
Mm.
It's uncertain where their head's at.
And
So
I thought he had a good idea here, to go to each of them individually and be like, "Hey, so I'm hearing Raymond and Eileen's names. Is this have you heard this?" The problem is, I think Caroline and Kitty handled this extremely well. They both did not look shaken at all. They're just like, "No, I haven't heard that. Who did you hear that from?" Which is a normal question, and he's not even telling, where he heard the name from. So I think they called his bluff.
all he had to say was Kirby, realistically.
Mhm. Yeah.
But Ferris decides, you know what, we're not going to split the vote. We're just going to vote Mark. Let's make it easy.
Mhm.
And Alex, for some reason, decides to get paranoid and think, do I need to play my idol? Do I need to play my idol? Do I need to play my idol? Which is not even like relevant here.
Yeah, I kind of forgot he had an idol at this point.
Because he hasn't been a target.
No.
But with that, we kind of go right tonight into tribal. Now, Kirby decides to say the remaining Titans in the game are not long for the game, and they're probably going home soon. Which great move from Kirby to tell her allies that they're in danger. Confusing, but sure.
I mean, it makes sense if you are trying to keep the ruse up that it's still Rebels versus Titans, because we're seeing that it's not that at this very moment. So as long as they know, but I've seen it so many seasons where somebody does this and it's clearly theater, but somebody gets confused and they're like, wait a second. Like the biggest one I can think of is Philip Shepard and his very first tribal council, um, where Christina was like, oh, yeah, Boston Rob's safe. We're not going to get rid of him. And Philip's like, wait a second. You told me that we were going for Boston Rob right here. So you never know who's going to think that your theater is more
Is
than
real.
that. Yeah. So you got to be careful.
Yeah. I mean, Caroline is uncertain about her own safety because, of course, she's been told that she's the vote. Alex is uncertain of his safety because he has that public idol. And Eileen calls out the idols and thinks, is one going to be played tonight? And with that, we kind of just get to the vote.
Mm-hmm.
And as the votes are read out, I don't want to do this. We can just stop the recording here, right? Like we can just say she won.
See you next week, guys. Or next season, I guess.
Yeah.
And the winner of Australian Survivor, Rebels versus Titan, by a vote of 7-4.
Is
Oh no. Oh, it says voted out.
Eileen. Ah, damn it.
We couldn't even make that convincing.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
I'm very sad because she started off like the first 3 episodes, she was so invisible, but then she just became a star. And she was somebody that I was rooting for hard. Like, I would have loved to see her in those final 3 chairs for sure.
Yeah. I mean, she was the standout, like, strategic decision. She's called multiple things right when other people didn't believe her. And the good thing is, she is the first member of the jury.
Yay.
So at least she gets to be the mayoress of jury. But unfortunately, for the remainder of the season, she'll look amazing, just not on the game.
She doesn't deserve that X. She deserves that.
She deserves more. But literally, as Ferris and Kirby are walking out of this tribal, Ferris asks, "Was that you so we could get closer?" Kirby's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Got rid of the wedge.
Got rid of the wedge." And Ferris takes that surprisingly well.
Mhm. You kind of have to, even if you're not inside, you have to fake it. Um, and I'm unsure whether he's fully meaning this or if he still has revenge on the mind. Um, Time will tell. But
Time will
yeah,
tell.
I did think that was a pretty interesting moment, like a pretty unique moment as well.
Yeah. But now we just move into the simple episode where we kind of just get shit done. Episode 17. We start basically where we left off in episode 16 with Kirby and Ferris looking at each other and say, "Yeah, no, we're good to work together now. I guess you just needed that one little thing, but it's okay. We'll work together."
Mhm.
And their next target is Valeria. God damn it.
No. But
Ugh.
but also it's interesting how quickly their social interactions have changed after this. Um, I don't know, like, I honestly think Ferris is really playing into it and trying to make, Kirby feel super comfortable, but this kinda goes back to what I was just saying about theater, and you gotta be sure people are in on it because people start to notice how chummy, uh, Kirby and Ferris are pretty much immediately, and people are starting to get insecure about it.
Specifically, Alex,
Yeah.
who has been nervous this entire week because he still has that little idol. He's like, "Am I gonna be blindsided out of nowhere? Maybe I should jump to the old Titans, like I've done before." Because of course he has. And uh,
It just took some laughter between Ferris and Kirby for Alex to go make a new alliance, and this actually did surprise me because I thought Alex was very committed to Ferris, especially ever since, we saw him way back at Rebels camp tell Ferris about the plan that Kirby had to take him out. I was like, "Okay, he's his loyal soldier and they've been working together very closely ever since, even finding idols together or finding Alex's idol together. So I don't know. This kind of was like, wait, really? That's all it took?
yeah. But something actually really interesting happens between Kitty and Caroline, which like they don't trust each other anymore. Like, there's definitely some doubt from Kitty over, can I really trust Caroline? Like, does she have my back? Which we have two potential flips happening at the same time with Alex deserting to old Titans and Kitty deserting to old Rebels. Oh God.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. I like this is another one. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Why is Kitty? I get wanting to jump ship, but when you've seen how the season is going, like, I don't think there's a reason to jump ship yet. Things are gonna probably work their way back around, and you're gonna have some agency again. So I thought this was wild.
Yeah. But with that, we get to the next immunity challenge. And honestly, I kind of really enjoy this run because it feels like a mix between multiple different challenges. For this challenge, players are going to be hung upside down over water with their feet on essentially a swing stool, just like a log, and holding onto a rope. At certain points, they have to move down the rope and possibly back up if they take too long. And the last player standing wins immunity. And it pretty quickly comes down to Rihanna and Alex. They're down to the third segment of the rope, the black part, where they are basically on the water, drowning half the time.
Mhm. That was so funny to watch them, like, just go underwater and then come back up, like, once they needed air again. I was like, "Okay."
And everyone else drops out in like 20 minutes. They go to 30. Okay, yep. You are only gonna allowed to have one hand on now. Y'all are still here at 60 minutes. Okay, great. You're gonna go back up to the section above, and you can only have one because I'm pretty sure they realized that having them in the water allowed them to take some support off of their core,
Mhm.
which is pretty funny seeing how I think if they just started with them in the water, people would have struggled more. But after 60 minutes, a little over 60 minutes, and then both falling to really awkward positions on their stool with just their ankles hanging on.
Mhm. Yeah, it was pretty intense. Alex was really struggling too, so it was like, it would take a miracle for him to win this, and there was
It
no
doesn't.
miracle. There was no
Yeah.
miracle.
Rihanna wins it after Alex is like, "Fucking hell, she's good at this," and just drops after
Yeah.
probably about double the time that the producers expected this challenge to take.
Mhm. Honestly,
Which
she's a stealthy challenge beast here.
she just knows how to. She's really fit. That's
Mhm.
simply how it goes. But Rihanna is safe. Alex probably thought he needed it because he's still paranoid about his idol. And from here, we go back to camp. This is still a rather short episode, so we just keep moving on. We start with Mark, funnily enough, pitching a plan. You know, the diplomat that has gone rather quiet in the last 6 episodes. He's had a little bit of a role in the last weeks, but he's kind of irrelevant during this week. Mark suggests to Kitty, Caroline, and Valeria to vote out Jaden, which I'm not disagreeing with. I think it's smart.
Yeah, it is smart, especially knowing there's 2 idols out there. You're kind of limited on who to put it on. Just in case, especially, like, you never know what Alex is gonna do. Um, and yeah, I think it's probably like, we've seen that this type of situation quite a bit on Survivor, where kind of the unexpected person, the person that flips, they might be a good person to get out. So I wasn't mad at this at all.
Unfortunately, this plan is not kept secret for very long, as Kitty, in her very paranoid state, leaks this directly to Kirby.
Cannot believe this. I could not believe
Uh,
this.
we're right back to the mess of the Sarah vote. It just all come for a circle.
Mhm.
Um, now, in slightly unrelated things, Caroline and Jaden are not happy with each other, and they're kind of like fighting with each other over the fire and how it's being done,
Did
which
she
then
call him
sets
Fire Lord
parallel.
or something?
Yeah, which then sets paranoia bells off in Caroline's mind that Jaden isn't with them, which he really isn't. But you should have figured that out by now. And then we
Yeah.
have the other flip.
Yeah. We see Alex be pretty open with Ferris about the fact that he's flipping, and Ferris is just beside himself. He's like, Seriously? Just because we're getting along, you're flipping? And I'm like, exactly. This is how I felt earlier in the episode. Like, it's just so illogical to me. But there's just the logic is like
Out the
fleeting
window.
in this season a lot. And I love it. It makes for great, like, I think we have a great balance of really logical moves and really illogical moves. And it's not like consistent on who's always logical and who's always illogical. It just flips, and it's just such a bizarre. I've never seen a season of Survivor like this.
This is chaos. Their voting blocks is not specific enough to describe the season, honestly. It is like voting people at this point.
Mhm.
It feels to the level that the early seasons of Survivor were, where there was very little developed strategy. We've gone so far back around to there's too much developed strategy, so people feel like they can't trust anyone.
Mhm. It's like a kaleidoscope. You just twist it a little bit and it looks completely different. Twist it again, it looks different.
Exactly. But now that Ferris is annoyed, he considers, you know what? Alex does have an idol. Let's shoot him. And Raymond looks back at his advantage and goes, do I take out Alex with this? No, wait, other way around. Uh, he kind of looks at Alex and goes, do you want to like try and work together here? Maybe get a little bit of friendship, you know, just to do some basic stuff. But with that, we go to tribal.
Mm.
This is probably one of the weirdest tribals in a while. It is very open, but still somehow very reserved.
Jack, are you a
Kirby
floater or are you flexible?
depends on the day and depends on where I am. It just like
What's the difference?
uh flexible is intentional, floater is passive, maybe. I don't know.
You were supposed to say you and me.
Ah, god damn it, I completely
Yeah,
forgot that.
it's okay. It's okay. You screwed up, but it's okay. Yeah,
Uh
Alex and Kirby go at it in this tribal council. I'm like, weren't you all just voting together not long ago? Like 2 tribal councils ago?
yeah. And in the strangest possible turn of events, Mark, seeing an opportunity, leans over to Raymond and is like, you want to vote Jaden? Which this should never have worked.
Mhm. Yeah, I was a little confused. Was the plan at one point to vote out Valeria for the core, like, rebels?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think we even talked about that. It
It's
it's
kind
just
of because it was like passed over really
mhm,
quickly and it swapped to someone else.
right, and, so I missed it. If the swap happened at tribal council, because I thought it happened before tribal council, but I guess Kirby, like, in the chaos, she was mouthing to people to vote Alex, which I thought was already the plan, and I guess somebody may have missed that, and somebody being Rihanna.
There's also the fact that Raymond just kind of looks over to Alex and is like, yeah, it's Valeria. Which, huh? It's not Valeria, but you know what? Fine. And this is ultimately where things break down for the Titans. I'm
Well,
remembering.
kind
Nope,
of.
other way around.
It's kind of things don't go perfect for either side here. Should we just get to where the vote goes and what happens with
Yeah,
the idol? Yeah, so everybody goes up to vote, and before the votes are read, we see Alex decides to play his idol, and he announces that it will be played for Valeria. And I'm like, okay, good.
sure.
I
Why
don't
not?
think she needed it, but good. Um,
He
but
said it was a 1 in 5. You know what? Good on him for getting nullifying one vote when there
mhm,
were four on him.
right. So I guess the way it worked was so we had the core Titans plus Alex, that 5, and then we had the other 6. So those 6 should have had the numbers. The problem is Kitty walked over and joined the Rebel Alliance in voting out Alex. And then Raymond also flipped his vote over, I guess, to have a big move. And now he has voted out Jaden per Mark's request. So it should be it should still be a majority vote for uh, for Alex, right? But the problem here is that for some reason Rihanna still voted for Valeria, and I'm so confused.
And it doesn't make sense because Jaden just goes out. He goes out 5-4-1, which this is the second time that Rihanna has fucked up a vote and sent someone out,
Hmm.
which is a very funny statistic to have.
Yep. We keep almost like going to rocks, and we keep missing the opportunities.
But with that, anyway, we move on.
Bye.
We go to the final episode of the day. And this is a weird one. I'm not even gonna lie. This one, some of the logic here doesn't even make sense. But we start out with Kitty apologizing to Caroline and Mark for being a paranoid mess and say, "Look, I'm sorry for flipping. They told me so many things and I just like I wasn't sure and like and Valeria and Mark go, "Okay, you burn that bridge completely. Like the
Mhm.
island's on fire at this point. There's no coming back."
Yeah, I think she made it seem like it was just about Alex. It wasn't about you all. It was about not trusting Alex.
But we get the other big element of this, which I'm sure you have opinions about.
Hmm.
Raymond looks at his advantage again and goes, "What is the only way I can realistically get every single person to vote me? Oh, if I think I'm about to quit the game. If I think I'm about to quit the game, I'm going to be over in the corner dying for a little bit." Which it's effective.
Yeah, and when I first heard about this advantage, I did think logically the only way for it to work is if you are telling people you want to quit the game and just vote me out. Just vote me out so I don't have to look like a quitter. Um, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. It is the specific strategy that he has that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And this is controversial. I've gotten hate for on Twitter for speaking my mind about it. But the especially after we had Scott leave the game for mental health reasons, I just think there's something a little tacky about pretending to have mental health issues going on right now, going as far as not to eat or drink and really preying on people's compassion. So immediately I was like, I really hope he thinks about this again and doesn't go this specific route because it's not sitting right with me. And I'm sure people in the comments will disagree, and I'm happy to hear about it. But for me, was not a fan.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I do think this is literally the only way the advantage could be done. The Unless you literally just like fuck up the camp entirely, and realistically, even if you get this done, you can't win the season. Like, there's no way you come back from this, at least in my mind. You have to convince people that you were willing to quit the game and then reveal an advantage and say, oh, it was all an act, which most people will be like, get out. No. So I honestly think Raymond shouldn't have done any of this.
Especially
But
when especially when there's still numbers on his side right now. He still is in okay with the rebels. So there's how many people left? 9. Okay, you've got yourself, you've got Ferris, you've got Kirby, you've got Rihanna, and you've got Kitty, who has already expressed interest in working with you. So that's a
you don't
majority.
need to do this. But the reason he gives is he wants to step outside of Ferris's shadow. And he thinks this is the only real way to do it. I'm not sure. Because it still feels wrong.
Plus, honestly, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but if you want to jump out of Ferris's like shadow here, why are you making him like such a key player in how this goes down? You've told him everything, and he is the biggest champion of getting this move to happen. It kind of becomes Ferris's move, honestly.
Yeah. Um the difficulty with this particular advantage is that you literally have to put yourself fully at risk.
Mhm.
And Ferris even realized, like, hey, if he does this, I was still the second in command. If he doesn't do this, whoops. Okay, sure. He voted against me last night. Can I really trust him anymore? Like, it's I don't think this advantage was done right. Um I don't know how you really would do this advantage right beyond just you can play it on anyone, and if it goes through, the person who you played it on, they're the only vote that counts. But then it's just an idol with extra steps. So I honestly don't think this advantage needed to exist in the season.
No. And I think most people would realize, "Oh, I shouldn't even attempt this." So I gotta give him props for, like, having the ambition to go for it, even if I don't like how he went about it.
Yeah. But now we get a challenge that, I mean, funnily enough, literally was done basically point for point on the traders before this. It is pretty simple for a reward. Players transfer coconuts through an obstacle course one at a time, then slingshot it towards a board with everyone's names on it. You hit someone's name, it takes out one of their lives. Take both of them down, they're out of the challenge. Last person standing wins.
Yep, pretty straightforward. I didn't have a lot of thoughts during this challenge. It seemed like there were definitely some people who were really good at it and some people that struggled. Um, I think Valeria got in one really lucky shot after I think was it Kitty who took out one of hers, and then she was able to get hers out immediately. But then other than that, Valeria was having a very tough time maneuvering this.
Yeah. And I mean, surprise, Alex wins reward. And he takes Valeria, Ferris, and Kitty to a high tea picnic
Mhm.
in which they all go to town on a bunch of sweets and sandwiches. Like it is brutal. They don't care.
Right. And something in my gut like told me that Valeria would be the first person he picked. I think it was because there was a scene earlier in the episode where you saw them hanging out and like just like really connecting and becoming friends. And I'm like, wait, are they going to be a showmance? I don't know why that was my first thought. But I really don't think that's where it was going. I just maybe it was like I like both of them and I think they would be a cute couple, but
Yeah. Now we begin to see Ferris kind of take control of this move of Raymond's little plan and is like, hey guys, like I don't like to see Raymond like this. He's not feeling well. Let's just take him out. Let's all just join together and take Raymond out of the game. Which I think is literally his best move here. If you think Raymond has no chance of ever voting for you, and he is willing to essentially offer himself up to potentially take out a big target, why not?
mhm. Yeah, and I think Ferris gives himself a lot of agency in this move, and we're seeing that here. I mentioned it earlier. He's the one kind of planting the seeds, and it seems like people are considering it strongly.
Yeah. And back at camp, very similar discussions occur with Raymond in the hammock kind of rejecting food and water and companionship. And Ferris kind of implied that it was over him flipping at the last vote. And he's just like, I'm done. I feel like trash for it. And they all consider voting him out to just let him go home,
Mhm.
which means it's working more and more. Why is this working? This should not be working on this season.
I mean, I understand why it would work because you wouldn't expect somebody to go this far to take it
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah.
Um, but there is one person that is not so sure. They're not so sure, and that is Valeria. We see her talking to Mark, and she's like, I don't know. I feel like something is up. What if we don't vote him out? And Mark, I think Mark is a good player. He just is playing normal Survivor. This Survivor's always a little bit ahead. So he's always like one episode behind. He always wants to make a move, but just one episode too late. So he kind of shuts her down here, and tells her that we can make a move next time. Um, yeah, and this is really sad. Knowing how this episode goes, it's really sad that Valeria was not more heard in this moment.
And especially because we also could have seen of Ferris, Raymond, and Kirby coming together, where Ferris and Raymond go, hey, I just want to let you in on this really quick. This is what's actually happening. We still want everyone to vote Raymond, but if we do this, we can knock Valeria out of the game. Which uh
No.
yeah. With that though, we get to immunity. And this is a new one across every single show we've ever seen.
Yeah, we haven't seen anything quite like this for sure. And my first thought was, "Ooh, is Raymond going to try, or is he going to be committed to the fact that he doesn't care?" And he's
Oh,
committed to the fact that he doesn't care.
Raymond throughout this entire episode is slumped back, depressed, not smiling. Like if you go back to the reward challenge, he is just like, hmm, hmm. Just the entire thing. And Raymond during this challenge, he tries a couple times. The ball falls off. Takes like 20 seconds to grab it. I mean, with this being a 3-layer maze, you have to get the ball to the end of the maze. Simple enough if it wasn't for the fact that the ball has weight to it and the walls are pretty shallow, meaning that one false move can actually send the ball very easily off the course.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind this for an endurance challenge.
Yeah. I actually kind of would like to see this as a like big challenge for like a team where they have like a huge set and they have to work as a tribe to maneuver it down the different levels. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, that does sound really nice. But Valeria gets pretty close multiple times. Kirby gets close multiple times. If I remember right, Kitty gets close a couple times. But the first person to nail it, get through all 3 levels, is Kirby.
It's Kirby. Good for you, Kirby. I wanted it to be Valeria.
I wanted it to be Valeria as well. Just force them to figure out another plan, maybe hit Caroline or Mark,
Mm-hmm.
but there are whispers going around of, wait a minute, Rihanna didn't win. Is this the time to take her out?
Yes.
And of course, all it takes here is one vote to flip, and Raymond's advantage doesn't mean anything. But
Yeah. Even so, now that Kirby knows about the advantage and she's in for the plan, she still has some skepticism herself. And so she decides to go to Rihanna and tell her. Um, and I was like, is this gonna come back to bite Raymond? Maybe. But she tells her all about the plan and how every vote has to be on Raymond. And I think this is where they both kind of like feed into each other's nervousness. And
kind of
Kirby,
like,
yeah, she has the
is it
idea
too
to
much?
give her idol her immunity necklace to Rihanna at tribal council if things start to look shifty.
Now, funnily enough, at the same time, Valeria approaches Mark about blindsiding Rihanna. They say, you know what, it's not worth it because they don't think they have the votes.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, you didn't need the votes. All you needed was literally one person. But
But that wouldn't. I mean, yeah, you would need Raymond to be the one person, but just having a few votes on Rihanna would not have gotten rid of her. So,
it wouldn't have gotten rid of her, but it would have saved her potentially being shot at by Raymond.
mm-hmm.
But with that, I mean, Raymond once again goes to lay down on the sand, just sad little puppy dog. And Ferris goes, you know what? We should all do the right thing and vote him out if that's what he wants, because he doesn't want to play the game anymore, and we all do. And you know what? Maybe being in Pondy will help him out. And with that, unless you have anything else, we kind of go to tribal.
I think we're there.
At tribal, Mark and Kitty kind of go back and forth on how many blindsides there have been during this game and like how you can't ever trust the plan that you've been given. And Ferris, once again, basically single-handedly shoots it down. It's like, look, let's just make this a unanimous vote. Raymond's not doing hot. Let's give him his wishes and take him out. And like at this point, if Ferris is pushing for it this hard, you have to get a gut feeling where it's like, is he really feeling sick? This is
Hmm.
a little too much pushing. There's something wrong here.
Yeah. I was watching and I was like, are you overselling this now? But I honestly don't think he did. I think he kept making it very clear, like, we're respecting Raymond's wishes here. This is what he wants. He wants us all to go out and write his name down. So we should respect his wishes. So I think there was risk that he was overselling it, but I think the way he framed it really was putting the onus on Raymond and his specific wishes. So I think he was just presenting it as if, hey, I'm trying to be a good friend here.
But at the same time, all of this is happening, the necklace just slips off of Kirby and goes right to Rihanna. JP's like, what the hell was that? Like, are we just going to ignore that just happened? It's like, yeah, you know what? I want Rihanna to be completely fine tonight. I just want her to be good. There shouldn't be anything happening, but I just want her to be good. And this is kind of the one comment that rubbed me the wrong way, what Ferris says next. I hope no one takes advantage of the situation.
Hmm.
That's the one thing that made me go, we've crossed the line of this being kind of okay. Because this is now gone from like, yeah, let's all just vote it out to, if you do not vote out Raymond here, you are a bad person. Which, in this case, is being used to make sure that Raymond has the only vote. And I'm not happy about this, just because
Right.
it feels really manipulative after what you said earlier. The Scott vote out. Scott asked to walk from the game because he wasn't doing well with his mental health. And I guess the fact that Scott walked versus Raymond getting voted out changes it a little bit, but also uh it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I agree. I'll have more to say after we talk about the vote.
Yeah.
But I think we're pretty much there anyways, right?
The only other thing that's left is they all kind of decide, you know what? We're going to respect Raymond's wishes, and we do it the exact same way that Raymond would. By every single time we go up there, we say our vote, we say as loudly as we can what we love about Raymond. And this is so sweet.
It is.
If it wasn't for the fact that this is an advantage play, and this is like straight up emotional manipulation to a
Mhm.
degree that is slightly uncomfy to watch. Because, oh god, they are treating him like he is about to die. But, I mean, with that, we kind of get to the vote.
Yep. Yeah. We get to the vote. We hear them all, like as you said, uh, treat him like he's going out as a king and somebody that they have so much respect and admiration for. But then once they're done casting their votes, before they read the votes, Raymond says, "You're gonna hate me, guys," and he pulls up his advantage and gives it to JLP, and everybody finds out that if all of the votes are on Raymond, then whoever he voted for will go home. So, did you think all the votes were going to be on him?
I
I didn't.
genuinely thought that someone would have cast a vote for. I would have thought that maybe Marco Valeria cast a vote for Rihanna just to do it.
Mhm.
Like, just in case Raymond gets an idol played on him, like they were paranoid of.
Right. Me too. Yeah.
And I honestly think the fact that Ferris said, let's not be villains here and no one take advantage of the situation. I think that is honestly one of the main reasons that this goes through, because First vote, Raymond. Second vote, Raymond. Third vote, Raymond. Fourth vote, Raymond. Fifth vote, Raymond. Sixth vote, Raymond. Seventh vote, Raymond. Eighth vote, Raymond. The advantage is active. Kind of incredible.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, this is a big move because for this season in particular, like most seasons of Survivor, this would be like, you know what, fine. Yeah, you managed to get a unanimous vote on yourself. Congratulations. This particular season, that is incredibly impressive. Granted, I think they definitely had some help via emotional manipulation, but still.
Mhm. And then we see the last vote, and it is for poor Valeria. Mm. But, it seemed like a lot of people were taking it well, at least in this moment, so I'm interested to see how they react after they've had a night to sleep on it, if anybody starts to see it differently. Um, but yeah, everybody hugs Valeria, and she is gone.
She does say that, you know what? I couldn't be voted out by a majority. I had to be voted out by a minority. And I love Valeria for this. Good on her for kind of like taking the piss out of the situation of like, this is a ridiculous outcome. And the worst part is there is literally a confessional from this round from her voting booth saying, I hope you enjoyed that $400 bucket of popcorn, which is so horrible in retrospect.
Yep.
Uh,
That popcorn took you out, sweetie.
but unfortunately, Raymond has spoken, and Valeria
Oh.
on.
Yeah, and I listened to a couple of exit interviews with her, and she basically confirmed, like, she did consider making a move, but she thought just the fact that his mental health was at risk here, it would just be crossing a line to keep him in the game, knowing that he's struggling with his mental health. So the emotional manipulation certainly worked. Okay, but I do want to go on a little rant about my thoughts here. Oh, it's not really a rant. I'm just going to talk to you all and explain why I don't like this because most people do. I looked at IMDb. This is the highest rated episode of the season so far. So people are loving it, I'm sure. But I saw some people compare it to like Johnny Fairplay lying about his grandmother. I can see why people would think it's similar. For me, I did not really have an issue with that particular issue because it was not relevant to anybody on the season. Context matters. Plus, that was just for a reward. It was not for somebody's stake in the game, you know? Um, I think this is more comparable. And I know this is going to sound extreme to a lot of people, but in season 39 of Survivor, we had
You've jumped right onto a bed of coals here. Good luck.
yeah. There was a contestant who was very uncomfortable with being touched by a person in the game. She made it very clear to other people. And eventually, after the merge, there were two women who found the opportunity to also pretend like they were uncomfortable with this same person, but they were doing that for strategic purposes. And it was extremely gross then. It was inappropriate. And I found it similar here, especially seeing what had just happened with Scott and how he was just so desperate to leave the game to help his mental health. So to find that, like, see what just happened and be like, okay, well, now let me use that as strategy. I just found it gross. And I get that most people don't, but to me, it crosses a line. Like, I don't know. It does not sit right with me. Um, I still have respect for Raymond as a person and as a player. I just think he went a little too far. It was effective, so he probably doesn't care. So
Yeah.
good for you. It worked, but for me, I didn't like watching it. It made me uncomfortable.
I will say a very I'm in a pretty similar boat. I think everything was pretty much above board up until Ferris's comment, where it's like you are actively trying to take advantage of the situation if you do anything but vote for Raymond.
Mhm.
I know in the moment that wasn't necessarily like the like it wasn't necessarily like him trying to be ultra manipulative. But unfortunately, I think that's how Valerian Mark fully backed off because they were like, let's just do the right thing. And having that moral quandary now of you cannot trust someone that they are saying they are not feeling well and they want to go home is something that is a very very dangerous precedent to set not only on this season but future seasons,
Mhm.
because now no one can ever trust that someone asking to go out of the game is not advantage play. And I do think that is on the Australian Survivor team here, that they have sent something that is potentially super dangerous. And they are going to actively have to work against that in future seasons due to what they intentionally allowed into the game here.
Mhm.
There
And I
were
know
other ways to do it.
yeah. I know a lot of people are gonna also say, "Well, yeah, but they can just leave the game if they really wanna quit." And that's true, but we see how those people are often treated on social media. I think Scott was lucky. He did not get it nearly as bad as most people that we've seen leave Survivor for different reasons, but I can understand being afraid to do that and just preferring to be voted out. But I think it's going to make it much harder on people moving forward. I actually hope production does talk to future casts about not using that as a strategy. Like, okay, it happened once. We don't need to see it again. Let the cast know if you need to leave the game, be honest about it. If you don't need to leave the game, don't use that as a strategy because I really don't want to see anybody in an awkward situation because of what happened here.
Yeah. I mean, I I'm gonna say it, which I mean, this will absolutely make sure I never play a Survivor season. Um, I've played orcs before. This kind of stuff is directly outlawed in the rules. And it's for this reason. Because people, if they are desperate enough, will literally use any situation they can to do something.
Mhm.
And yes, Survivor is a game about doing anything you can to survive. But certain things cross the line between game and personal. And I want to say that I love Ferris and Raymond, and they were given the opportunity to do this by the game designers of the season. That's why I'm specifically annoyed at them. Be-
Mhm.
I don't think this should have been an option, period. If they thought about it for about 2 seconds, they would have realized that this is how this advantage would have to be done. This is on them, and it could make this game going forward a lot more dangerous for people who do need to leave.
Agreed. Yes, but Ferris is still my favorite, even though I'm disappointed in how he handled this. But yeah, I think I said all I needed to say. So I would love to talk about the draft, though, if you're ready.
I am very ready to talk about the draft while also saying that Raymond, you were still my favorite. And if you ever want to come on the podcast, just give us a ring.
Okay, draft update. So this draft has been very interesting because it started out with Jack and Lana. We each all three of us drafted 7 people, and you all were just losing people left and right, and I was not losing people at all. And then suddenly I just started losing a lot of people in a row. And now things are extremely close. There are 8 people left in the game. And currently, Jack has 2 people left. And Lana and I each have 3 people left. So it can't get any closer than this at this point. But yeah, just to remind people, Jack has Mark and Kitty. And then I have Ferris, Raymond, and Caroline. And then Lana has Kirby, Rihanna, and Alex. So,
Funnily enough, we are pretty I'm entirely on Titans. You are split between Titans and Rebels, and Lana is entirely on Rebels at this point.
that's funny.
So this draft has very much turned out similar to the season, where even though it has been not necessarily Titans versus Rebels this whole time, it's kind of been a Titan goes and then a Rebel goes, and then a Titan goes and then a Rebel goes. And it's kind of been ping-ponging back and forth, even to now where it's like there are 5 Rebels and 3 Titans. And I could easily see the next person going being a Rebel over a Titan. I don't think it's going to be a wipe of one side at this point.
Hmm.
And I mean, we have 2 weeks left, right? Is it 1 or 2 weeks?
So, it's supposedly 2 weeks. The past couple of seasons, what they've done at this point after episode 18, they've gone down to 2 episodes a week. So I thought we had 3 more weeks, but everybody has been saying 2 more weeks.
There
So
is,
maybe,
at least on Wikipedia, there is the next one is March 10th has an episode 19, March 11th has episode 20, and March 12th has episode 21. So we do
okay.
have 3.
Okay. So if that's accurate, then yeah, we only have 2 weeks left. But I think it's a pretty tight game here. I initially, after those first 3 episodes, I was like, oh, Mark's winning. Mark's winning. I felt really good about Mark.
Not
I
anymore.
don't know. I think Mark could still win, but I think a lot of these people have a shot. I do think it's mostly between Mark and Ferris,
I
but I
can
could
see
see
Kirby in there as well.
I could see that. I could see Caroline. I just wonder, have they gotten too much of a villain at it? Those 2 in particular. Alex could sweep in there. I do not think it's Kitty or Rihanna or Raymond.
I would agree with you there. Honestly, I would narrow it to Ferris or Kirby taking the winning spot, just like outright. They've been the 2 that have been highlighted this season. Mark was controlling the early game and then lost Eden, and his control kind of tape. He lost Viola, and then Valeria, well, and then Eden, and then Valeria. So I think his base is gone, and I think he's going to be an easy knockout during the next week. I have trouble seeing how Kitty, Rihanna, or Raymond can realistically win. I think all of them might be able to get to the end, but would be 0 vote. But would be very very small vote finalists. More. I'm not voting for you to vote for you. I'm voting for you against the other person potentially. I can see Caroline or Mark getting some votes and maybe having a story, but the storylines right now are based around Ferris and Kirby. And honestly, I could see them at the end as the final 2. And that would be a really, really cool way to end this season.
Mhm. There will be a final 3, for the record, so there would have to be somebody else in there, but who?
In my mind, if I had to take pure bets at who's going out this next week, and I don't think there are spoilers, so I couldn't be getting spoilers even if I tried, but if I had to take a guess, we are going to lose Mark next week. We're probably going to lose one of Rihanna or Alex. And then maybe one of Kitty, Caroline, or Raymond. I feel like
Mhm.
only one of them is realistically going to go out. I have trouble seeing a world where Ferris or Kirby at this point are going to directly go against each other, at least not until late game. And
Well,
also,
we saw Ferris in the preview talking about revenge still, so I think he still
yeah,
might be wanting revenge on Kirby.
but there is also a non-elimination episode that has to come up because we have 6 episodes to go through and there are only 8 people. There can only be 5 more eliminations. There has to be one more non-elim.
Mhm.
Somehow, in some way, whether it's a redemption rock or exile like last season, there's going to be some way that it goes down, whether it's this week or whether it's the next upcoming week or the week after that. But I'm very excited to see how this ends.
Yeah, me too. It hasn't gotten boring yet, and I don't think it will.
Yeah. But with that, though, that is the end of our time today. David, it has been amazing talking with you about this.
It has. I'm glad to be back.
Welcome back to the beautiful Samoa. Maybe we'll see you next week. Maybe you'll get voted out. Maybe I'll get voted out. Maybe things will happen in weird ways. Maybe one of us will be sent to Redemption Rock. I don't know. But regardless, make sure if you have not already, and look at the bottom, it's all going to light up when I say this. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell to get notifications for this channel. Once again, if you are looking for more Drag Race content, you can check us up over at the Cup Pod, where we do all types of Drag Race stuff. And if you are interested in Eurovision Song Contest, you can go over to that channel as well, the Cup ESC. And if you are looking to buy some merch to help support us, you can always get a wonderful cup mug. And with that, thank you for being with us today. And maybe we'll see you next week. Cheers. Okay, so I do have to lay on the ground for a little bit just to like look sick. As long as that's good with you. Like, I do have an advantage that can vote out Lana if we do this right.
Sounds good.
Perfect. Let's get it done.